Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I want to start today's video by saying thank you to everyone for helping the channel reach 100k subscribers, which is a huge step in its success. I've been waiting for this for years and it's finally here because of you. I'm planning to do a video about my YouTube journey once I receive the silver plate, so if you are thinking about having your own YouTube channel, you might learn something from it, so stay tuned. But for now, let's talk about today's camera comparison. So here I have the Honor Magic 4 Pro and the Google Pixel 7 Pro. Both are the Pro versions from each company, both are running Android, and with the 7 Pro we have Google's Tensor G2 and G-Cam versus Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 and Honor's camera software. So let's see how those two flagships will compete against each other in my in-depth camera comparison. Let's start with the landscape shots, and here's the first image using the main sensor. The Magic 4 Pro images are much brighter either in the shadows or the highlights, while the 7 Pro is darker with more contrast. The second difference is the 7 Pro has a wider field of view. And when it comes to the details, the Honor has softer images with less noise and details, while the 7 Pro does exactly the opposite to give a sharper image with more details, but it comes with more noise. In some shots, I like the brighter look of the Magic 4 Pro like in this one, but if we're gonna take a look at this image, the 7 Pro has a much better and more realistic look in my opinion with more details. And here's another one that supports the idea. So far, the 7 Pro takes the lead in the wide-angle shots for the more details and realistic look, while the Magic 4 Pro has softer images and sometimes the exposure is too much. Moving to the ultra-wide lens, I can see the same differences in the look like we saw in the main sensor, but this time the Magic 4 Pro has a wider field of view. Also, the Magic 4 Pro has a 50 megapixel sensor versus only 12 megapixel on the 7 Pro. But when I crop in, there isn't that much of a difference in the details. Still, the Honor produces softer images, while the Pixel uses software sharpening to give more details. So the image processing in the ultra-wide is exactly the same as the wide angle, and that also gives the win to the Pixel, except for the wider field of view of the Honor. The last thing to compare in the landscape category is the HDR performance. Starting with the main sensor, the 7 Pro did a lot better. I can see more details in the clouds and the light beams are visible, while the Honor turned down the exposure and softened the image, resulting in an unrealistic flat look of the sky. Moving to the ultra-wide, and the same differences apply here, still the 7 Pro doing a better job in handling the scene. But things became a bit better for the Magic 4 Pro when I used the telephoto lens. The light beams started to appear and the cloud became more detailed, but still not as good as the 7 Pro. Now let me show you a quick slideshow for the rest of the images I took for this comparison to help you make up your mind. So overall, the 7 Pro wins the landscape category because it has better HDR performance, a balanced exposure, and more details. The only downside, it has more noise because of the software sharpening. On the other hand, the Magic 4 Pro has softer images that lacks details, sometimes the exposure is a bit too much, and the HDR performance is not as good as the 7 Pro. And now let's move on to the portraits category. Here's the first image at 1x. As you may know, the 7 Pro crops into 1.5x in portrait mode, while the Magic 4 Pro takes an actual 1x portrait. Putting that aside, the 7 Pro is much better in pretty much everything. It produced much more details, has a better skin tone, accurate colors, the background is less blown out with a better blur effect. While in the Magic 4 Pro shot everything including my skin is too soft, the t-shirt color is far from accurate, and it applied the blur effect on my left arm for some reason, which is not the case with the 7 Pro. Moving to the 2x portrait on both, the 7 Pro has a lot of software sharpening which I don't like, but with no doubt it's still better than the Honor by far. Here's another one, but this time the background was too bright to test the HDR. Sorry for my messy look, but it was raining heavily and I didn't have an umbrella, but putting this aside, it's an easy win for the 7 Pro, as you can barely see me in the Honor shot. And this is the 2x version. It certainly looked bad on both, but still the 7 Pro is better. Now let me show you a slideshow for the rest of the portraits I have. In portraits, the 7 Pro takes the lead because it has better skin tones, accurate colors, more details, and better blur effect. while the Magic 4 Pro missed pretty much everything. And now let's move on to selfies, but after telling you about today's sponsor, the PowerVision S1 mobile gimbal. The PowerVision S1 is one of the best mobile gimbals you can find in the market right now, so let me explain why. First, it has this innovative mechanism that allows you to fold the device in 4 easy steps to make it as small as a power bank, so you can easily put it in your pocket. And it does actually work as a power bank, thanks to the 41 mAh battery that can charge your phone using a wire or even wirelessly, which is a great feature. You can attach it to any phone using a universal magnetic clamp that comes in the box, and the magnet is extremely strong, so you don't need to worry about dropping the phone. It has 3 hidden legs that can allow you to place it on any flat surface without the need to carry a separate tripod, but if you want to use your own, you still can do it using the 1/4-inch UNC port at the bottom. On the front, it has a power button to turn on the device or double press it to switch between portrait and landscape modes, a 5-way joystick to tilt and rotate your phone, triple press to switch between the front and the back cameras, and a double press to recenter the gimbal. In addition to a zoom slider, a photo/video capture button, and finally the battery indicator. And now let's put it into action. The PowerVision S1 has a subject tracking feature that you can activate or deactivate from a distance by raising your palm in front of the camera and do an L shape to start recording. The tracking feature automatically detects faces and follows you wherever you go, and from my experience it works flawlessly. But if you want to track an object, simply highlight it in the viewfinder and you are good to go. You can take advantage of these features by downloading the mobile app and pair the gimbal with your phone via Bluetooth. Beside all these amazing features, the PowerVision S1 will allow you to take smoother videos, and you can clearly see the difference in this side-by-side comparison. Plus, it gives you a lot of flexibility, so you can capture videos in a lot more ways, which is almost impossible to achieve using your hands. If you purchased the PowerVision S1 before the 30th of November, you will enjoy a 35% Black Friday discount, in addition to my special promo code DEPTH10 that will give you extra 10% discount. All the links will be in the description below, and now let's get back to the camera comparison. Now let's talk about the selfies. The Magic 4 Pro suffers from the same issues we saw with the back camera portraits. It doesn't handle the skin tones correctly, the colors are far from accurate, and the image is too soft, plus the exposure is a bit too much. On the other hand, the 7 Pro has a more realistic image with balanced exposure, and when it comes to the details, still the 7 Pro is better even though it has an 11 megapixel sensor versus 12 megapixel in the Honor. The only advantage the Magic 4 Pro has is the wider field of view. Both shots are at 1x and you can clearly see the difference. And when I switch to the ultra-wide mode, the difference is even bigger. Here's another image with a bright background to test the HDR, and the 7 Pro handled the sky better with more details, and the exposure is more balanced. So overall, the 7 Pro has better selfies despite the difference in the megapixel count, so I will give the win to the 7 Pro. Moving to the selfie portraits, the Magic 4 Pro still suffers from the same issues in exposure, HDR, colors, and the skin tones, but the details was a bit better than the Pixel this time. And if we're gonna talk about the subject isolation, I see a halo effect around my hair in both shots, but the 7 Pro is certainly better, plus the 7 Pro can take portraits in the ultra-wide mode, which is the Honor cannot do. In the selfies, the 7 Pro was better in pretty much everything, and the only advantage the Magic 4 Pro has is the wider field of view, but when it comes to the photos quality, the win goes to the Pixel. Now it's time for the macros. Both phones use the ultra-wide lens for this purpose, so let's see which one has better results. Here's the first shot, and I can immediately see more details coming out of the Pixel despite the higher megapixel count of the Honor's ultra-wide lens. Also, the Pixel has more accurate colors, while the Magic 4 Pro pops out the colors and the flower looks pink instead of red like in real life. The only advantage the Magic 4 Pro has is the ability to get closer to the subject. If we're gonna take a look at this shot, you will see the 7 Pro has a lot of areas out of focus, while the Honor did better in this part. In the macros, the Magic 4 Pro was able to get closer to the subject, while the 7 Pro had better image processing, so I will call this one a draw. Next, the zoom. The Magic 4 Pro has a 100x zoom capability versus only 30x on the 7 Pro. But let's take a look at the results. Starting with the 2x zoom, when I crop all the way in, I see slightly better details coming out of the Pixel, especially when you take a look at the background and the sign. So let's see if things will change when I switch to the 3.5x, which is the zoom level of the Honor's telephoto lens. while the 7 Pro is still cropping in digitally, but the Magic 4 Pro shot is slightly cleaner, but it's too soft, so I can barely read the text. I expected it to win the Pixel in this shot, but unfortunately the difference is very minor. The next one is at 5x, and now the 7 Pro is using the telephoto lens. The details are noticeably better than the Magic 4 Pro, and the text is more readable. And once more, the owner has a very soft image that lacks details. Now let's jump right away to 30x, which is the maximum zoom level of the 7 Pro. I still see better results coming out of the Pixel, as the text is much more readable when compared to the Magic 4 Pro. You can zoom even further with the Magic 4 Pro up to 100x, but as you see, the results are unusable. So overall, the win goes to the 7 Pro in the zoom category despite the lower zoom range because of its better image quality. And the last thing to compare in the morning is the videos. Starting with the main sensor, the first difference I see is the 7 Pro has more vibrant colors, and you can see this when you look at the trees. The Magic 4 Pro shows more details in the clouds, which gives it a slight edge over the Pixel. On the other hand, the 7 Pro was smoother while panning the camera, but the owner did lag a couple of times. When it comes to the HDR, both did really well in handling the sun, but the 7 Pro had brighter shadows, which looks better in my opinion. Lastly, the stabilization. I don't see a big difference between the two, both look very similar, so there is no clear winner here. So overall, both had their own strengths and weaknesses, so I will call this one a draw. Moving to the ultra-wide, both produced different results when compared to their wide-angle counterparts. The Pixel has a much cooler tone, and the owner has a lot more contrast, so both lacks consistency. When it comes to colors, the Pixel has a little bit of a pink hue, and that made the building color not as accurate as the Magic 4 Pro. And in the HDR, the Pixel did handle the sun better, so the sky is less blown out, but it had more noise in the shadows, while the owner produced a cleaner footage. When it comes to the stabilization, the 7 Pro was noticeably better, as I can clearly see the impact of my footsteps in the Magic 4 Pro video, which is not the case with the Pixel. So once more, I will call this one a draw, as each camera has its own issues, but the only thing that can make you choose one over the other is which one looks the best to you. Next, the telephoto. And this time the difference between the two in the white balance and the smoothness was minor, but the owner still has more contrast and darker shadows like all other lenses. So it depends on your personal taste which one you like more. But when it comes to the HDR performance, the Pixel was noticeably better, as I can clearly see the cloud details and the different color gradients in the sky. But the stabilization was a lot worse on the Pixel because it has a 5x telephoto versus only 3.5x in the owner, and the more the zoom, the worse the stabilization. So once more, I had to call it a draw. Now let's talk about the front-facing videos. Right off the bat, the Pixel is still the best when it comes to the HDR, while the owner is no way near. Also, the colors and the skin tone are far from accurate. The only advantage the Magic 4 Pro has is the more details, as the 7 Pro video is a bit soft and lacks details. But overall, the Pixel definitely takes the lead here. The last thing to compare in this category is the mic quality, so let's take a listen. Here is a quick test for the mic quality on both. I have the speech enhancement activated on the 7 Pro, while the owner Magic 4 Pro doesn't have a similar feature. But let me know in the comments which mic sounds better. So let's do another video to test the 7 Pro without the speech enhancement and compare it one more time. Now the speech enhancement is deactivated on the 7 Pro, so let's do a quick sound check. Sound check 1, 2, 3, 4. This is my voice from the 7 Pro. Sound check 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is my voice from the owner Magic 4 Pro. The 7 Pro mic sounds a lot better to me with and without the speech enhancement feature, so please let me know in the comments if you agree with me. Now we're done with the morning camera comparison, and the 7 Pro is better in most of the categories, so let's move on to the night camera comparison to see if things will change. Starting with the landscape shots, both are using their own night modes. And the first difference is the owner always has a warmer tone, and sometimes the image is too warm. Also, the shadows are much brighter when compared to the 7 Pro. So it depends on your personal taste which one you like more, but for me the Pixel looks better because it has more contrast, and instead of brightening up the shadows and the highlights all together like the owner. Also, the Pixel has much more details and a lot cleaner image overall, but the owner is better in handling the bright lights. So if you take a look at the sign, you will see the text is more readable in the Magic 4 Pro shot, and this is not just a coincidence because I see the same difference in other shots like this one. While the owner can handle the bright lights better, but the Pixel has a better dynamic range. In this shot, I can clearly see what's behind the glass, and it's noticeably better than the owner. All the differences I just mentioned also apply to the ultra-wide lenses, And in this case, the win goes to the Pixel as it's better in everything except for handling the bright light sources, which is better in the owner shots. And lastly, the telephoto. Still, the 7 Pro is better in the level of detail with better HDR, and the owner is better in handling the lights, but this time the Pixel has warmer tones while the owner is noticeably cooler, which is different from the other two lenses. But this won't change the fact that the Pixel has better night shots. So let me show you the rest of the landscape shots I have before jumping to the next category. Now let's move on to the portraits. The same poor performance of the Magic 4 Pro in the morning portraits apply here. And at night it's even worse. The image is too soft, the white balance is too warm, the colors and the skin tones are far from accurate, while the Pixel nailed all of them. The only advantage the owner has is in the subject isolation, as the Pixel shows weird artifacts around the edges, which is not the case in the other shot. And it missed to blur the part between my arms while the owner did slightly better. And here's the 2x version, which is still better on the Pixel, so overall the win goes to the 7 Pro by a good margin, same as the morning portraits. Next, the selfies. And once more the 7 Pro handled the skin tone and colors more accurately, but the level of detail was noticeably better in the Magic 4 Pro shot. In the ultra-wide mode, the owner's image improved a bit in terms of colors and skin tone, but still not as good as the Pixel. So in selfies, I will call it a draw, as the owner was better in the details and the wider field of view, while the Pixel was better in the colors and the skin tones. Moving to the selfie portraits, the same differences in normal selfies apply here, and the subject isolation is identical in both, and again the Pixel can take ultra-wide selfie portraits while the owner can't, which gives a slight edge to the Pixel. Next, the zoom. As expected, the 7 Pro will be better in zoom as we saw in the morning shots, but at night the gap is even bigger at all zoom levels from 2x up to 30x, so it's a clear win for the 7 Pro. And lastly, let's end the night camera comparison with the videos. Starting with the main sensor, the Pixel had a slightly cooler tone and the stabilization was slightly better than the Magic 4 Pro. When it comes to handling lights, both did well without any blownouts, which is nice. The Pixel produced more vibrant colors and brighter shadows overall, but if we're gonna put the looks aside, the Pixel is the winner because of the better stabilization. Moving to the ultra-wide, and this time the Pixel is noticeably worse than the Magic 4 Pro, as the video shows more noise in the shadows and the stabilization was worse as well. So I hope Google will work in decreasing the noise in night videos, as Pixel phones always suffer from this issue. Moving to the telephoto, and the Pixel still struggles with the noise, plus the owner was better in handling the lights, so this is another win for the Magic 4 Pro. Finally, the front-facing camera. And for the third time, the Magic 4 Pro is better as the Pixel video is washed out and has a tremendous amount of noise. So overall, the Pixel had better videos only with the main sensor, while the Magic 4 Pro was better in all other lenses, so I will give the win to the Magic 4 Pro in night videos. And now we are done with the comparison, and the Pixel 7 Pro crushed the Magic 4 Pro in all photos, but there is only one thing that the Magic 4 Pro can do as good as the 7 Pro or even better, which is recording videos. The Magic 4 Pro was neck to neck with the 7 Pro in morning videos, and it was a lot better at night because it managed to handle the noise much better. So that's pretty much it for today. That was my camera comparison between the Pixel 7 Pro and the Magic 4 Pro from Honor. Please let me know in the comments what do you think. But for now, thank you so much for watching and see you in the next video.